Hello, everybody. Welcome to my induction as exit presentation. My name is Noah Scott Goldman. I work at DCP El Primero High School. I teach integrated math 2 and math reasoning with connections, and that means that I mostly work with 10th graders and 12th graders. The first question I have before me is which inquiry was most powerful for me and why was it so powerful? And I would say for me it was the third inquiry because, first let me just tell you what I did. So as part of this, I created a lesson plan template to improve planning and pacing, and I worked on using attention getters to improve student engagement. So here are some snippets from my lesson plan template. One thing that I included right off the top is some pointers for not just a prompt to write some lesson objectives, but also where to actually get the objectives from my unit plan, and some tips for writing good ones. I also have in here some reminders to look at assessment data to make sure that I'm responding to my students' needs. I have a checklist to make sure that I'm including all the necessary accommodations for our NDL students, and I have a table to help me pace my lessons appropriately so that I'm not spending like half the class on a warm-up. One design goal I had when I was making this was also to make it visually attractive and friendly so that I'd want to use it. And because I've worked with some lesson plan templates where they weren't really so attractive to use and they were kind of overwhelming, and so I made one where it was like, okay, one question at a time and a suggested amount of time to work on each thing so that I'm not, again, wasting so much time on any particular piece of it. Why was this powerful? Well, it improved my lesson pacing. It streamlined my planning process. It helped me get over the kind of brain fog I had when I sat down to plan, and I feel like it reduced my stress level a lot, just knowing exactly what to do next and knowing that I wasn't going to forget anything if I just followed the template. The impact it had on my teaching practice and student learning, I would say that this, as a result of my improved planning and pacing, this led to greater urgency for students, so they felt like, oh, we have a set amount of time to do this particular task, we better get on it. And also clarity around expectations, for instead of just like these big chunks of time where the expectations weren't clear. It's like, okay, no, this chunk of time has this specific purpose, that chunk of time has that specific purpose. I feel like this also led to greater student engagement for some of the reasons I just mentioned. And for me, it helped me create better routines and habits for myself that translated into just better classroom routines. So what am I going to take with me to the future? I'm going to keep using this template whenever I need to do an in-depth lesson plan. I'm going to keep integrating my day-to-day lessons into the broader planning sequence, and I'm going to keep being responsive to student needs through assessment and differentiated support. Okay, next question before me. How did selecting focus students during your inquiries impact your practice? So I feel like tracking a student over time kind of helped me see their growth or not growth, and it also helps me when I'm looking at student work. It helps me kind of dial down and see one specific real world example. I also think that selecting a focus student, this student served as a proxy for the whole class's growth because they were a representative. So for example, during inquiry number 2, my focus student, Miley, actually grew quite a lot in proofwriting. So this inquiry was about doing some routines from a book called Thinking Mathematically, where I was encouraging students when they see like a long word problem to find the key terms, to come up with a strategy, to draw pictures, add to the diagram. And monitoring Miley's growth helped me track the impact of these routines, and the impact was positive. Adrian, my second focus student, he didn't exhibit quite as much growth as Miley did, but he did help me see what students in the whole class were struggling with, both in terms of distractions / lack of urgency and academic uncertainty. Okay, so third thing before me, we're going to talk about the most influential aspects of the induction program on my teaching practice. I think the most influential part was my conversations with my mentor about the data that I collected. So we would collect some data and then we would debrief it together. One example is she would come in, I'd be teaching and she would count students engaged during my warm-up, and at the start, it was 32% were engaged, but by the end, we were up to 68%, so we more than doubled. And each time that happened, we would talk about it, we would pick apart the cause, and I found this super helpful, so thank you, Bailey. In terms of how the induction program helped change my practice, I think that tying the results that I see in class to the moves that I make as a teacher, it just helps me see the impact clearly, like having something happen and then taking it apart later, reflecting. And I'm excited to keep doing this during coaching next year. Okay. And so next, we got to talk about how the process of reflection has helped shape my teaching practice and impact student learning. My data shows that my students are more engaged now, they're grasping concepts better, they're using their class time more effectively. And I think there's still some room for growth. I still want to increase the proportion of students who are engaged and how long they stay engaged, because sometimes, they still get a little distracted. And also the fact that I'm using a lesson plan template now means that I have a record for next year, and I can use that to adjust my planning and lessons. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Take care. Thanks.